Sure, there are plenty of conspiracy theories floating around. NASA faked the moon landing, 9/11 was an inside job, and hybrid lizard humanoids control world governments. By the way, are there any V fans out there? The original television series in the 80s or the reboot in 2009? My apologies. Almost lost track of things. While hybrid lizard humanoids may be a stretch, we have to ask ourselves, how many times have conspiracy theories become conspiracy facts? I suspect more times than not. From human experiments to covert operations, here's our list of unbelievable American conspiracy theories that turned out to be true. You may want to watch to the end. Water fluoridation has been a highly debated topic for years. For many, just the mention of the topic causes that all too familiar fluoride stare. Well, the government added fluoride to water decades ago and discredited anyone who questioned it. Now, the National Institutes of Health, or NIH, after major pressure has declared it reduces the IQ of children and is hazardous to human health. Now it's claimed that states are in the process of removing it from water. Do you believe it? Weather modification and control means changing, controlling, or attempting to change or control the natural development of atmospheric cloud forms or precipitation forms that occur in the troposphere by artificial methods. There are well over 150 weather modification patents recorded in various patent databases worldwide. These weather modification patents cover a range of technologies and methods related to controlling or influencing weather patterns, such as cloud seeding, controlling rainfall, dispersing fog, mitigating storms, and even influencing larger climate systems. As of recent, we've seen an uptick in rather violent and unusual storms. Do you think it's climate change or just another conspiracy theory claiming the government is controlling the weather for a larger agenda? Is it still a conspiracy theory if there are patents for it? I'll let you decide. Despite its upbeat name, Project Sunshine stands as one of the most chilling and horrifying conspiracies ever proven true. Commissioned by the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission and the U.S. Air Force, the project aimed to study the effects of nuclear radiation on humans and the environment. The disturbing part? The U.S. government harvested body parts from deceased children and babies, often without parental consent. Since younger children typically have higher levels of strontium in their bones, their tissues were more susceptible to radiation damage, making them ideal subjects for the experiment. Operation Mockingbird, the CIA's propaganda machine. Operation Mockingbird was an alleged large-scale project undertaken by the CIA beginning in the 1950s. The project aimed to recruit American journalists into a propaganda network. The recruited journalists were put on payroll by the CIA and instructed to write fake stories that promoted the views of the intelligence agency. The New York Times, Newsweek, and CBS, and by the 1950s, over 3,000 CIA employees were involved in the effort. The project was part of the United States Central Intelligence Agency's attempt to manipulate news media for propaganda purposes. For decades, a so-called anti-propaganda law prevented the U.S. government's mammoth broadcasting arm from delivering programming to American audiences, but in 2013, it's speculated that the U.S. repealed the propaganda ban, allowing the spread of government-made news to Americans. Do you think Operation Mockingbird is still active? Many believe it is. Operation Paperclip, Nazi scientists employed in America. In 1945, the Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency was authorized to offer employment in America to over 1,500 German scientists, technicians, and engineers, many of whom were from Nazi Germany. President Truman approved the program under the condition that only individuals who were not significantly involved with the Nazi Party or its militaristic activities would be included. However, key figures like Werner von Braun, Arthur Rudolph, and Hubertus Strughold, who were initially flagged as security threats, were considered too vital for the U.S. rocket program. As a result, their Nazi affiliations were covered up with false biographies, and all records linking them to the Nazi regime were destroyed. Werner von Braun, dubbed the father of modern rocketry, was a member of the Nazi Party and Allgemeine SSS, the leading figure in the development of rocket technology in Nazi Germany. He fit in well at NASA. The Bible verse on his tombstone reveals secrets from the grave. Milgram shock experiments. The famous shock experiments conducted by social psychologist Stanley Milgram in the early 1960s tested how far people would go in obeying authority. Volunteers, thinking they were participating in a study on memory, were instructed to act as teachers and administer increasingly strong electric shocks to learners, who were actually actors, each time a mistake was made on a quiz. Although the shocks were fake, the teachers believed they were real, with around 2/3 administering the maximum voltage at the command of the experimenter. The true aim of the study was to understand obedience to authority under pressure, and while it's criticized for ethical reasons, the results continue to be viewed as significant. A 2010 repeat of the study found that around 70% of participants were still willing to deliver the maximum shock. COINTELPRO, the FBI's war on 1960s activists. During the radical social upheaval of the 1960s, the FBI launched COINTELPRO, or the Counterintelligence Program, to target dissident political organizations. Under the guise of protecting national security, the program was used to infiltrate, marginalize, and disrupt civil rights groups, the women's rights movement, and anti-war activists. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover directed agents to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or neutralize these movements, spending about 85% of the program's resources in doing so. COINTELPRO ran from 1956 to 1971, leaving a legacy of government overreach and interference in social justice movements. Government's involvement in the assassination of Martin Luther King, Jr. James Earl Ray initially confessed to the assassination of Martin Luther King, Jr., but later recanted his confession, fueling numerous conspiracy theories. King's family believed that a government agency or the mafia was behind the murder, leading them to file a civil suit in 1999. A Memphis jury agreed that the assassination resulted from a conspiracy, although definitive proof of who was responsible has remained elusive. Many still believe that a faction of the U.S. government played a role in orchestrating King's assassination. The rich, the powerful, and the giant stone owl. I'm sure you know about this one. For years, conspiracy theorists have been captivated by the mysteries surrounding Bohemian Grove, a secluded retreat in Monterey, California, where wealthy and powerful men gather annually. Tales of bizarre pagan rituals involving a giant stone owl rumored to play recordings of Walter Cronkite's voice have circulated widely. While this sounds outlandish, the existence of the Grove has been confirmed by CBS, NBC, and ABC. The Bohemian Club, founded in 1872, quickly attracted wealthy businessmen, and in 1942 the Grove hosted a meeting related to the Manhattan Project, which led to the development of the atomic bomb. While the rituals may seem strange, the retreat is mostly a place where the elite behave like rowdy frat boys. Operation Northwoods, a plan to frame Cuba. Operation Northwoods was one of the most outlandish conspiracies conceived by the U.S. government during the Cold War. In 1962, the CIA devised a plan to stage terrorist attacks on U.S. soil, including bombing military targets, hijacking airplanes, and sinking refugee boats, all to blame the Cuban government and justify a war. Imagine that. The plan was approved by the Joint Chiefs of Staff and presented to Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, but was ultimately rejected by President John F. Kennedy. It's widely believed that Kennedy's rejection of this scheme was one of the factors that led to his assassination. MK-Ultra, the CIA's mind control experiment. During the 1950s, amidst fears of communist espionage, the CIA launched Project MK-Ultra in an attempt to develop mind control techniques. Without their knowledge, U.S. and Canadian citizens were dosed with LSD, interrogated, and sometimes tortured, as the agency sought to uncover a truth serum. Hospitals, prisons, and universities were paid for their participation and silence. In 1973, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered the destruction of all MK-Ultra-related documents. Although the program was eventually exposed, many details remain unclear as most involved claim to have no memory of the events, leaving the full scope of the project a mystery. Does the Netflix series Stranger Things ring a bell? The Illuminati and the US government, a secret society that rules the world. The Illuminati and the US National Security Agency, or NSA, are in cahoots. As some of you may already know, a link in fact does exist as proof. Of course, that link is actually a hyperlink, an electronic link between two internet sites. Type Illuminati backwards, Itanimulli, into a web browser, you will land on the NSA website. Rumor has it this elite society includes tons of famous personalities, actors, actresses, and performers. On a related note, with the advances in technology, the government is using its vast resources to track citizens. As far back as 2016, government agencies sent 49,868 requests for user data to Facebook, 27,850 to Google, and 9,076 to Apple, according to the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Imagine what they can do now. Do you think the government is spying on you? Through your laptop or cell phone camera? Possibly even your smart TV? It's strangely reminiscent of the movie The Truman Show, don't you think? Human experimentation, past and present. Many of us know that in 1932, the U.S. Public Health Service and Tuskegee Institute created a phony syphilis treatment program for 400 African-American men. The program, initially intended to last 6 months, was shut down in 1972 after public awareness. The program involved dangerous chemicals and unnecessary procedures, with penicillin being hidden from the patients. The big question is, can history repeat itself? Are the sudden deaths, cardiac arrests, rise in cancer rates, and strange clots a coincidence? Or do they all seem to coincide with a certain recommended medical procedure that started a few years ago? Surely, Microsoft founder Bill Gates, dubbed the most powerful doctor in the world according to Google, would have some idea. He, of course, was the face of the cure along with Fauci. One of the most widespread conspiracy theories to come out was that Microsoft founder Bill Gates, who announced $1.6 billion in funding for immunizations in poor countries, was secretly planning on using a certain medical procedure to implant unsuspecting people with patented technologies, among other things. Are there any other conspiracy theories we missed? I'm sure there are a few. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this list? Let us know in the comments.